Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to the greatest show with Noor that shines the brightest glow. You can stay at home or stay at work, but you don't have to travel to and fro. So sit back, tune in and relax, cause we will fill you in with all there is to know.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our NoM Noise podcast. Alhamdulillah, it's good to be back with you again in this podcast together with you. I hope you listeners are doing good and coping well wherever you are now. Thank you for tuning in with us. This podcast is sponsored by Screen Troopers. You may check them out for any video production, animation and graphic motions, and also live streaming. Thanks to the team for the sponsorship and production of this podcast. I'm Ustaz Suffiyan, the Youth Development Officer of Maarof Mosque, and with us today, we have two esteemed individuals that will share more on today's episode. As we are all aware, we are right now in the month of Ramadan, and one thing for sure that's very significant is zakat, be it wealth or mainly zakat fitrah. These two individuals are mostly and actively involved pertaining to the matter of zakat. First, we have Ustaz Suffiyan, Executive Officer from Community Funds Strategic Unit from MUIS, and also Sister Hidayah, a corporate service executive and also an Amil Zakat here at Masjid Maarof. Welcome to NoM Noise Podcast.
Thank you so much.
Alright, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Alright, so maybe Ustaz, you can share a bit about yourself.
Okay, my name is Ustaz Suffiyan, and what I do is in the Community Funds Department, we look at the administration of zakat, wakaf, baitul mal, all structured funding that is used to benefit the Muslim community in Singapore lah.
Okay.
So amongst them, especially during the time of Ramadan, Ramadan ni, dah Ramadan pun, memang busy lah zakat
for sure,
operations.
Alright, okay, thank you so much. Alright, how about you?
I'm Hidayah. I'm Corporate Service Executive at Masjid Maarof. I lead the front desk team and I also sit at the front desk. So sometime last year, like before bulan Ramadan, I got my zakat certification. So I've been an active Zakat Amil since then lah. For 1 year experience, Alhamdulillah.
Okay, looking at these roles, I believe it's very challenging. For sure, with dealing with jemaah here and there every day, different kind.
But all for a good cause lah,
insyaAllah. Alright, so thank you so much for your time and contribution to the jemaah, to serve jemaah and so on, insyaAllah. Alright, now, without further ado, shall we begin to this episode?
InsyaAllah.
Alright. Okay, now, again as I said just now, we talk about zakat in this Ramadan. So, as a basic first question, Ustaz, how do we exactly pay our zakat wealth?
Okay, good question. And first of all, we need to understand that zakat, by definition, first of all, means it comes from the word tazkiyah, which means purification or the cleansing. So what is meant by that is actually the cleansing of our wealth. Bila kita keluarkan zakat tadi, kita menyucikan harta kita. At the same time, scholars are saying that this word zakat also comes from the word namu or numuwa, which means it grows. So which means that by definition, when we give zakat, Allah SWT akan kembangkan and grow our wealth. Jadi janganlah we don't let us think that we are decreasing our wealth, because in the hadith along the lines there was ma naqasat minal mali sadaqah kan. Kamu Nabi SAW kan, Nabi pernah kata that the wealth that we give in terms of charity will never decrease your wealth. Dan kita sebagai seorang Muslim, kita kena terapkan lah, we need to have belief that exactly. Bila kita tunaikan zakat kita. Okay, so back to the question. How do we fulfill zakat harta? So we understand that there are 4 conditions in which if a Muslim reaches these 4 conditions for his wealth, he will need to pay zakat lah. First of all, he need to be Muslim, like we mentioned just now. Okay. Alright. Number 2 is that his wealth, his total wealth is more than the kadar nisab. Kadar nisab is in the month of March is about $7,000.
Okay, that's a lot.
Jadi if our savings, if the lowest point of our savings for the whole entire Islamic year, Hijri year, of 355 days, if our savings do not dip below the nisab value, we understand that that amount of money has met the nisab. Okay. And the third point is haul. We understand that haul is that time period of that whole Islamic year of 355 days, and if the nisab is met all the way throughout the year, therefore we understand that that has met the haul condition. And last but not least is that he needs to have milkut tam.
Okay.
Bukan milk
What's that?
bukan.
Oh.
Milik penuh. Maksudnya milik penuh terhadap that account. He has full accessibility on that account.
I see.
For example, he wants to he can use that money for anything that he wants lah.
This is direct access to the money lah.
Correct.
Okay.
This is unlike CPF. CPF does not meet this last syarat. So how he calculates this zakat harta is that he takes the lowest amount above kadar nisab, and then he times 2.5% from it, and that amount is then zakatable lah. That means he needs to fulfill zakat on that amount.
Oh, so that amount needs to be disbursed into the 8 asnaf,
correct?
Okay. So Ustaz, just now you mentioned about gold and it needs to be zakat, correct?
Correct.
So how do we exactly count or pay zakat gold?
Okay, good question.
Yeah. Like over at the counter at Masjid Maarof, right? Sometimes we have jemaah who come in, they bawa dorang yang bag of barang kemas, and they'll just lay it out in front of the counter. They're expecting us to help count for them because they don't know how to count it. So like, how do we handle this kind of cases?
Kalau makcik datang bawa seguni
Ingat kita pajak
So in order for us to understand this, zakat on gold ni terbagi kepada dua bahagian. So the first is gold intended for usage, barang-barang kemas intended for wear, and then there's another segment, another section of that zakat on gold, in a sense for gold yang tidak diniatkan untuk dipakai. For example, gold bar in terms of investment, there's some stocks based on gold as well. So all related issues which are not meant to be worn, those things kena bayar zakat atas tu. The first category you don't have to, as long as you have
wear our jewellery, for example.
Correct.
I mean for the female lah, not guys lah.
Of
So for the
course.
female means if they wear their gold, they do not have to pay zakat for that lah.
Correct. As long as diorang ada niat to wear it,
that,
and dah pakai pun, then it's good. For the year, it's fine. So how you calculate it is, you take the grams in gold, of any particular gold jewellery yang tak dipakai ataupun gold bar dan sebagainya. You take the grams in gold, you times. If you go to the zakat calculator dekat zakat.sg, there's a new portal which will identify for you how much the worth of grams of gold would equivalent to Singapore dollars, and then at the same time they will calculate for you 2.5% of that amount as well. Dah senangkan lah. This new website will be rolling out and it will be in
soon,
Ramadan, will be Ramadan. So it's easier for us to understand that lah.
Okay lah, senang lah, jemaah tak payah nak bawa-bawa barang kemas pergi masjid.
Exactly.
They can just count at home and so on. Okay, I think, is it correct, one of the misconception that zakat harta need to be done only in Ramadan? Is it true?
That's a good question also. Something that we commonly experience. So we understand that zakat harta is not necessarily in the month of Ramadan only.
Okay.
The one that is only in Ramadan is zakat fitrah, kan? Ever since the first of Ramadan all the way till before solat raya pagi tu, that is valid for us to pay our zakat fitrah. Tapi based on scholars, it's best to follow to pay during the last few days, kan, closer to the time of raya, kan. But kalau if we are gonna pay on manual counters kat masjid, I'm sure during the last few days jam gila. Super pack. So we advise, if you want to plan to do so, best you do it online lah, kan. Kita ada macam-macam, ada website dia, kan, where we can pay via PayNow, via debit card, etc. So there are many forms where we can avoid the inconvenience lah of queuing up for long, kan. But zakat harta, it is paid when the amount, tadi kita cakap pasal nisab, kan. If your savings has reached the nisab and it has maintained within the nisab for a period of one Islamic year, as soon as it completes that one Islamic year, from Muharram to Muharram ke, daripada Ramadan ke Ramadan ke, daripada Rejab ke Rejab yang depan, maka kita cakap bahawa as soon as it meets the one Islamic year punya mileage, then it's wajib upon him to pay
so
the zakat.
So it differs from each individual lah, kan?
Correct, it differs.
So I guess those people yang bayar zakat harta during Ramadan, apparently or coincidentally dia kira start nisab from Ramadan to Ramadan.
Correct. But if a person wants to fulfill his zakat harta in Ramadan juga, dia masih nak juga bayar kat Ramadan, we tell him can, but you need to pay your zakat, bring forward your zakat to, the haul to Ramadan. You cannot delay it beyond that one Islamic year. For example, my for example, my zakat harta is due for Rejab actually. So boleh tak Ustaz, I delay it till the next Rejab and delay lagi till Ramadan. More than one Islamic year, we say cannot.
Okay.
But you can pay during that Ramadan, Rejab to Ramadan, maybe 1 to 3 months ke apa ke. Kan? Dia pay dulu, baru the following haul tu, it falls under the next Ramadan jugalah. So it's okay to bring forward and not to push back.
Okay. Understand. Alright. So hopefully listeners are taking note. This note is very important.
Itulah.
Okay. Now talking about zakat, we talk about how it disbursed to the 8 categories and so on. So is it possible for one to give the zakat to the relative?
Yeah.
Be it wealth or fitrah lah. Can we pay to our families instead?
I think previously Sister Hidayah was mentioning that she receives.
Yes, macam over the counter people do ask for both zakat fitrah and zakat harta because they have families yang ada kesusahan sendiri, so they want to give it to their own families first instead of like giving to others.
Betul. So we understand that for these kind of questions we say that of course kan kita fahamkan bahawa our immediate family and our extended family is the main priority lah kalau kita cakap dalam pertolongan kan, sebagaimana hadis Nabi SAW, ibda bima ta'ul kan, atau kama qala Nabi SAW, which means to begin with the ones that are closest to you and that is your family members lah. In which helping them, kata scholars, there are 2 benefits for it. One is you're fulfilling your zakat. Number 2 is you are also closening up the ties of silaturahim. Yes, exactly, the family ties. Jadi but however, we need to understand that we have to properly do our due diligence to try our very best to see the level of kesusahan that they are facing lah. Biasanya for social development, they will evaluate by looking at the PCI of that person. So if the PCI is above, if the PCI is below $400, we understand that they can be categorized as families that can receive zakat harta assistance, and they fall under the category of asnaf, fakir dan miskin. So for example, if a sole breadwinner is bringing back home 1.6 1.6 a month, masya-Allah, sabar. And then we understand that if that family has 2 children, jadi husband, wife and 2 children, dah 4 orang kan. Jadi if that person has 1.6 and he's feeding 4 mouths, kan? So 1.6 divided by 4 is $400. So the PCI is $400 and that person is eligible for zakat assistance lah. So we have to also remind them that this zakat is supposed to be a supplementary to government initiatives and schemes to help them as well lah. Jadi that could insyaAllah with both hand in hand with zakat assistance juga, they can sustain better lah insyaAllah. And then try to ease their exactly.
Okay, so Bini say if you want to give to our relative, then we need to fact check lah.
Betul.
Because we know our family better. So if we think that okay, they do deserve that, then we can give some portion of the zakat to them, and the rest to the other asnaf.
Yes,
lah.
of course, the other asnafs.
Okay. Alright. Right, next question Ustaz, boleh
Boleh, silakan.
Alright. So, can we pay zakat on behalf of the deceased? So sometimes when our family, a loved one pass on, then they have the wealth on them. So do we pay for them or how?
This question, I think, also one of the most frequently asked questions.
For sure.
Macam dia nak buat atas nama arwahnya.
Usually we hear that statement
atas nama arwah.
Atas nama arwah and so on. So how is that possible ke tak ke?
So we understand that zakat harta is attached to the wealth, and if we understand tadi, if we revise balik the syarat for zakat harta, Muslim meet the nisab, meet the haul, and has milik penuh terhadap the account kan. If we understand, there's no baligh there. Meaning people who are have not baligh but have reached the nisab and the haul, they are also tasked to pay ataupun wajib upon them to pay the zakat. My point here in this question is that similarly for the deceased, we understand that if the deceased punya money dah melebihi kadar nisab dan juga menempati haulnya, we understand that that money has to be zakat, because we have to understand that the rights of the 8 asnafs, the fakir, miskin and the rest of the 8 asnafs, their rights are in that wealth. So kita fahamkan bahawa zakat and obligation is tied to the wealth and not tied to the person. So even if the person has gone, dan semoga Allah rahmatinya, we understand that the wealth itself ada tanggungjawab dia sendirilah. So the person who take care of it needs to understand that okay, after dah 1 year ni agak-agak dah meet the haul, then he has to pay zakat before disbursement of faraid, before dia terkira termasuk dalam hutang-hutang lah, lunaskan hutang-hutang. So maybe the disease, kadang-kadang kita biasa dengar hutang-hutang fidyah kan, hutang-hutang dengan kaum Adam kan, bukan kaum Adam maksudnya
orang
kaum Adam, kadang dengan kaum Hawa pun ada hutang. Dan hutang-hutang Adam dan juga hutang-hutang ilahi, hutang-hutang kepada Allah.
So means that we need to clear that first before the faraid lah.
Betul.
I see. Okay, that's something new. I hope listeners are taking this as well. Yeah, because it might happen to you before. It will happen, okay, someday, and we will face that better lah.
Betul.
Alright, now on to the next question. Usually when we hear people pay zakat, and they pay everything, the remaining of the bank account and so on. So in that sense, do we actually need to take out the interest from the bank, then we pay our zakat, or how? Sometimes people just buy a bit, apalah halal lah gitu kan. So macam mana? Do you ever see that?
Yeah. Of course, that's something that happens pretty often. Sometimes they just want to top up the money as like infak, but then there's still macam the zakat, the interest portion is still there in the bank account that hasn't been cleared. So macam mana tu?
Soalan bagus And these kind of questions, if we have their bank book or the app, we can easily identify the interest amount that the bank gives either monthly ataupun annually. So with that amount, scholars say that kita fahamkan bahawa interest ni duit haram, and how we dispose of it is to give to charitable organisations di mana it's meant for benda-benda non-food items, which is meant for communal benefit lah. Ada yang mengatakan untuk pembangunan bangunan-bangunan yang dimanfaatkan masyarakat dan sebagainya. Ada yang mengatakan seperti itulah. So in a sense it's not food items because it's not consumed, betul. Duit haram kan. That's one. And number two, we understand also that cara kita kira zakat tu is by first kita subtract dulu, kita set aside dulu interest punya portion dulu, dan kita settlekan, baru kita settlekan 2.5% of the lowest amount above kadar nisab.
So we identify the lowest amount above nisab, then
minus off dulu
the interest.
Minus interest tadi, baru times 2.5%.
I see. I think it's pretty much clearer now. So hopefully listeners are able to take this as well, to remove our interest first before we pay our zakat, because the inclusive of the interest is not actually our money.
Betul.
Kan. It's not pure that our money kan.
Tapi kalau nak sebagaimana like what Sister Hidayah said, if the person wants to pay more, kan, inclusive of that amount, then ahlan wa sahlan. Kita it's good lah, we encourage this kind of behaviour, sebab at the end of the day zakat money goes to the 8 asnaf, the fakir, miskin and the rest. However, kita cuma nak ingatkan to tepikan that amount for interest and to dispose it in the right manner. Kadang-kadang kita lupa kan. Letak kan. Kadang-kadang berapa sen kan, kadang-kadang berapa dolar $2.
Tapi still it's not pure for us kan.
Exactly. It's best for us to remove it.
Jadi macam bersihkan duit kita lah.
Betul.
Dah bersih lah, dah buang interest, ada zakat lagi
Itulah.
Okay. Alright, now Ustaz, moving on to the last question before we end of our episode. Generally, how do you think zakat actually benefit the recipient?
MashaAllah. I think it's a very good question, and we have to understand that our zakat money goes to helping more than 50% goes to fakir dan miskin, and we understand that as much as 7,000 families are helped every year, close to that amount lah. Last year 7,000 plus. Jadi kita fahamkan, especially during the time of COVID-19 and the pandemic, we understand that many people lost their jobs, many of them fall into poverty, kan? And with that as well, our zakat assistance also goes to them as well. Jadi, and it helps a lot lah to understand this. Kadang-kadang it is just a temporary setback for them. For example, during the pandemic, they lost their jobs, and they just need that temporary assistance to just get back up on their feet and mula stabilize diorang punya ekonomi kan. So sometimes it's these people, sometimes and we understand that the other 8 asnaf is also included lah. Kalau kita fahamkan dalam surah At-Taubah ayat 60, kita fahamkan bahawa Allah SWT mengatakan, Allah khususkan 8 groups of people whom will receive the zakat. So firstly we have the fakir and the miskin, and then the amilin, the amils that are assisting on this. Number 4 is riqab. Riqab which in today's context is understood to be opportunities for education. So bursaries,
So it's not
grants.
hamba or slave per se lah.
Yeah, it's not slaves lah.
yeah,
We don't have any slaves.
Yeah.
Kan? Jadi that's riqab, and then there's gharimin. Gharimin are those people who are in debt for their main needs. So this goes to for their main needs lah. Kalau kita nak cakap pasal debt, everybody has debt in Singapore. HDB debt, motor debt. Jadi,
but not all debt lah.
not
Very
all
specific
debt. Only
lah.
the main needs that the person, the basic needs that a family needs. And then there's Ibn Sabil, and those who stranded in travel and have facing a lot of difficulties. There's fi sabilillah, kan, those in the cause of Allah SWT. And this includes the masjid activities, dakwah programs, zakat empowerment, asatiza development dan sebagainya. And last but not least, we have mu'allaf, golongan mu'allaf, di mana it will be going to converts development, the trainings, and currently in Singapore it's Darul Arkam lah.
Okay, interesting. Alright, so thank you Ustaz Suffiyan for your explanation. Hopefully the listeners you keep well and have the better understanding about zakat especially, because zakat technically is part of our ibadah, kan?
Betul.
Rukun Islam, kan?
Islam,
Yes,
betul.
correct. So we need to really understand the fundamentals, the information, so that when we pay our zakat, we pay with knowledge.
Betul.
We pay with proper
Ihsan.
understanding, ihsan, ikhlas and so on.
Betul.
Alright, now moving on to the next segment, right, Sister Hidayah. Since you state that you are Amil Zakat here at Masjid Maarof, so maybe is there any interesting or relevant story that you want to share with us or other listeners to listen?
Of course, there's a few interesting stories. I think one of it that I find somehow pretty often, people come to the counter and then they ask that we want a male Zakat Amil. Kadang-kadang they even insist that it must be an ustaz.
Oh, so double criteria.
Yeah, so I find it interesting. Even when I tell them that I am a Zakat Amil, I can help to administer this for you, but they are still more interested to get that ustaz to handle the zakat payments for them. So I just wanted to ask Ustaz Suffiyan whether is there an opinion that says that the zakat has to be administered by a male or
ustaz,
specifically ustaz, specifically as ustaz. Yeah.
Okay, good question. I think this question can be analysed in several portions. Firstly, perhaps maybe the pakcik wants a male Amil, maybe first of all he wants to do the ijab qabul, or they insist on salam,
They want handshake lah, physical handshake lah.
Ijab qabul, not just a handshake. They want the ijab qabul. Saya mewakili Masjid Maarof, menerima zakat hartanya bagi fulan bin fulan. So we understand that this ijab qabul in the mazhab Syafi'i is not wajib upon mazhab Syafi'i for Muslims to do so. Imam Nawawi rahimahullah says in a separate book, he mentioned that giving zakat or sedekah, tersasul tadi, is similar to gifting hadiah benda. So in a sense whereby there is no need to mention ni aku hadiah kat kau, kau kena cakap terima, tak payah. Jadi as per seen in some countries, kalau kita lihat kat negeri jiran kita, when you buy and sell something, there's that ijab qabul, kan. Biasanya dia akan cakap, ni saya jual, saya beli, gitu. So that's called ijab qabul. So we understand that ijab qabul ni is not wajib. Imam Nawawi mentions cukup or sufficient for it to for the exchange of items, exchange of hands, for the giving and the receiving end, it is already sufficient lah. Tapi kalau pakcik tu insist on that, maybe pakcik he understood this
the old school lah,
cara yang lama. Jadi we should be tolerant lah with all these opinions, and kita betul ansur lah. Secondly, mungkin I think it's good that the masjid should also include a male officer, perhaps on standby, and I'm sure Masjid Maarof does that. So just in case if the person is not comfortable, and kurangnya ikhtilat lah, mana tahu tengah bayar zakat terus macam wink-wink ke, senyum terbih ke, kan. Mana tahu
kena azan.
pasal pakcik minta lelaki, pakcik nak jaga, Masya Allah, bagus, and that's a good thing lah. So and it does not necessarily needs to be an ustaz untuk menerimanya, because kita fahamkan dalam masjid ni kadang-kadang ustaz busy lah, nak buat tazkirah lain, nak buat solat, imamkan solat lain,
toilet mana tahu, kan.
Jadi kita fahamkan bahawa ketugasan seorang ustaz tu banyak kan. So the amil officers pun bila mereka berdoakan, jangan kita pandang rendah lah orang masjid punya, pegawai masjid punya doa. Mana tahu di sisi Allah SWT, pegawai masjid ni yang bukan asatizah, mana tahu amalan dia tersembunyi tu, solat malam dia lain, sedekah tolong orangnya lain. Di sisi Allah mungkin dia lebih mulia daripada ustaz tadi. Kan? Jadi kita nak kena educate lah. I think will take some time lah. Kita yang masyarakat perhaps terbiasa dengan several things lah. Jadi this is a time where we can educate where can lah.
Ada yang macam too traditional sampai dia salam pun dia genggam kuat-kuat. Yalah, genggam lepas tu dia hentak gitu. Nak nikah tu. Aduh.
Kadang dia ulang-ulang saya ingin tunaikan zakat harta.
Sakit tau.
Darah tak jalan, beku.
Aircon habis genggam kuat-kuat. Sometimes is the understanding lah. Again is the understanding, the the knowledge that we learn about zakat lah.
Betul. And it will take some time lah to educate.
As long as the syarat, the rukun is met, then I think the zakat is valid, insyaAllah lah.
Betul. Kalau kita nak ijab kabul tapi kita nak bayar online macam mana
Betul lah.
Takkan
saya cakap sini.
Bakar itu kan. So again the understanding lah, again the concept of it. Okay.
Pelan-pelan lah kita boleh educate.
Alright, interesting. Thank you so much. Anything else that's there? Any interesting experience?
In Maarof, right, we have ada jemaah lah yang quite international. So sometimes they come over the counter, and one of the questions that they ask is, if I work in Singapore and I get my income from Singapore, do I keluarkan zakat kat sini ke back in my hometown?
Especially the maids, sometimes over the weekend they pay their zakat fitrah in Singapore. So sometimes they might ask me, macam, do I need to pay here or pay in Indonesia, for example? So how do we go about that?
Macam Maarof pun dekat dengan seberang tambah. So there are a lot of Malaysians as well lah. Okay. So this kind of questions, scholars mention that the best place for them to fulfill their zakat is the place where they receive their income. Jadi if their main source of income comes from here, maka they have to, or rather wajib atasnya, or sangat digalakkan for them to fulfill their zakat at the place where they
highly encourage lah.
Exactly. Because, and interestingly is that we want to share a question I received through email. So there was this one particular person, Singaporean, kan, but he has many stocks, but one of the bulk of his stock was based in Switzerland actually. So he was inquiring whether how should he fulfill zakat on that particular stock lah, kan, and that amount is quite a significant amount. So we advised to him that sebaik-baiknya adalah to pay the zakat from the source of the income where he get that stock punya income kan. So he said it's best that he fulfill that portion to Switzerland punya zakat collection centers lah, if there's any lah. Kalau tak ada, then you can pay over here as well. Jadi interesting lah. We jarang kita dengar soalan-soalan seperti itulah.
But like even if like Switzerland is a wealthy country, right? And then like some people have this perception that why should I keluarkan zakat to a country that's wealthy where the fakir miskin is not as teruk as my hometown. For example, if let's say I'm from Indonesia gitu, should I give it back to my own hometown people ke?
Good question. But we have to also understand that we mentioned that in every country there is the poor, there's the needy, there's even the homeless pun. So we should not do so lah. The money that we receive from the economy should also be used for that economy's poor and needy, so as to closen up the economic gap pun antaranya kan. So we understand, we should understand to them that that is supposed to be how it is lah.
I mean, I think separately also that person can generally donate lah to that needy, for example. But as far as zakat is paid on the country that the source of income, then on the sideline he can also donate further right. So I think that's technically we achieve the ultimate goal, which is to help that person.
Betul.
Yeah. Interesting. Alright, anything else you want to share?
I think pretty much Ustaz Suffiyan has covered all the common questions that we get over the counter lah. So I think if there's anything else, they can also check on the website, I guess, zakat.sg, right, for more information.
Correct. Yeah, I think it's best for us to really read through the website lah, zakat.sg, because it's much more contextualized to Singapore, so you understand what is riqab, what is gharimi in Singapore's context, Ibn Sabil, who are them, and so on. So better to read from the source, come from the Singapore itself. Right. Right, so hopefully listeners are able to learn and also share this new information for you maybe, right, so that we can educate our community further on matter to zakat, insyaAllah. So ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the first part of our episode about zakat. Thank you again for your time. If you wish to pay your zakat, fidyah or donation, you may drop by Masjid Maarof during office hours or email to us at info@maarof.mosque.sg.
We are also open for night sessions lepas tarawih between 9 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Yeah. And again, this podcast is sponsored by Screen Troopers. You may check them out for any video production, animation and graphic motions and live streaming. Thanks to the team again for the sponsorship and production of this podcast. So Ustaz and Sister Hidayah, thank you so much for your time and sharing. Right, hopefully it benefits lah, insyaAllah. Right, so stay tuned as we discuss further on matters to zakat in the next episode. Till then, take care and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.